unmute both of you. So if you are, we're going to.
Good evening and welcome to St. Andrew. Tonight we have Reverend Rob Martin with us, who is the newest member of the St. Andrew staff. His wife Dell is also here and she'll be joining us in a few minutes. Welcome. Welcome to Iowa. Welcome to St. Andrew. We arranged to have one of the coldest days of our year here. There'll be a few more, and there have been a few, but it was pretty cold out there this morning.
I greatly appreciate it.
This is going to work here. We have Reverend Rob Martin with us, who is the newest member of the St. Andrew staff. Hold on, guys. I didn't realize that my iPad was on full blast there, so here we go. Rob, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. And tell us a little about yourself. What can you share that is very exciting?
Well, let's see. Probably the most exciting thing to share is what I've learned so far about Iowa. I have learned that you have to put antifreeze windshield wiper stuff in your car. I've learned that Mount Pleasant, Iowa, does not have a cab service. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. No one told me that.
Sorry.
That's all right. And probably the most important thing is that I have learned what a great staff is here at the church.
Yes.
They have been incredibly helpful and gracious to me during my first week. They pointed me in the right direction when I needed to be pointed in the right direction. And I do want to say a very special word of thanks to Jeff, who has, again, helped me greatly this week and has helped to get all of this set up for this evening. I do want to take just a minute and introduce my bride, Doe. Doe, if you'll come up just a second. I always say that Doe is my better half. She also, you'll hear me say it often, she is the man of the house in the sense that she takes care of all the projects and all the fix-its and all of that. This move actually, and I haven't publicly thanked you yet, but Doe worked tirelessly to get all of our stuff ready to go and to get the house ready in Laurinburg, so thank you for doing that. Yeah. Any words?
Not really. I don't really have any words. I'm not big with words. It's good to be here. I've found everybody to be so friendly and helpful, and I'm looking forward to getting to know more people soon, hopefully.
Thank you.
But, yeah. Thank you all very much for the welcome.
Doe is the introvert in the family, and I am the raging extrovert. And so we do our best to balance each other. Thank you. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks, Doe, for stepping up here. And we're all very excited also to get to know you as well as we are to get to know Rob and show you our community, our Iowa City, our North Liberty, our Coralville, our Mount Pleasant, our small lakes up top, and our cornfields. We have many to share, and we're more than excited when the weather breaks and we can actually get out and do some things to share those with you.
That's
it's
great.
A beautiful area.
I do want to tell you, Kathy, about my arrival in Mount Pleasant. I came out on the train, and train got in, I believe, about 7 o'clock in the evening. I immediately began to look for a cab to go to my hotel, which is about 2.5 miles away, and discovered quickly that there was no cab service. There was a Lyft driver, I believe, that drove like every third Tuesday in the morning, so that was not available. And this gracious guy in the train station who was behind the counter, I said, how do I get to the hotel? And he said, well, I'll be glad to take you. He said, now I'm scared about COVID-13, so you're just going to have to ride in the back of my pickup truck. And so I rode 2.5 miles. I think it was about 18 degrees outside with him going 45. So I was a frozen block of ice by the time I got to the hotel. And I truly believe they really thought I was from North Carolina when I arrived in the back of a truck. So
Well, we have some great friends of St. Andrew that are down in Mount Pleasant. The pastor, Trey and Sarah Hager at the Mount Pleasant Presbyterian Church are great friends of this congregation and have shared with us many times. And you could have made a call if we would have known. I'm sure Trey would have come up in his pickup truck and taken you over to there and stuff.
Just a few things I want to say at the onset this evening, and that is, as you can imagine, being new to church, being new to a new culture, being new to a new community. I've been, kind of feels like I've been drinking from the fire hose, and I'm doing my very best to get acclimated. I don't know if you know, but Doe and I, we were thinking about buying a house kind of long distance, and that became too complicated. We had not sold our house in Laurinburg yet. So we have moved into the Cardinal apartments, condos, right here by the church. In fact, I can see our apartment out of my office window. So we're glad to be close, especially with the snow. We're very thankful to be in place. We're still living out of boxes. It feels like we're doing scavenger hunt for all of our stuff. I mentioned before we started, if you've seen me since I've been here, you're going to think I only own one tie, but we haven't been able to find my ties until this evening. One of the things that Jeff did for me, and I greatly appreciate this, is he put together some pictures that he's going to put up for you all, and it'll give me an opportunity to introduce you to my family, my extended family, and also to tell you a little bit about my history in the life of the church. And Jeff, if you'll put up that first picture for me. This is a picture of our son, Bobby Martin. He is William Robert Martin IV, if you can believe that. He runs a staffing agency in North Carolina that helps to supply workers for major industry in the area. He was staying with us before we left, and so it was hard for all of us to kind of say goodbye, but he's now squared away in an apartment in Rayford, North Carolina, and I think is doing very well. The other picture that you see there is a picture of our daughter, Callie Lee, her husband, Nick, and our brand new grandbaby, Piper is her name. Piper, how would I put it, inherited the Martin gene of being ragingly extroverted, very busy, and on occasion, very loud. But she is the love of my life. We're thankful, thankful that at least now we're about 1,000 miles closer than we were before. COVID has been hard. We had hoped that they were going to be able to come for Christmas, and that was not a possibility. But we love them dearly, and they live just a little south of Davis, California. My daughter works for a medical company, and she's graced and gifted by the fact that she's able to work from home. The next picture that's up is a picture of my mother and my father. My mother, Billy Martin, is still living. She's in a retirement community in Black Mountain, North Carolina, just kind of outside of the gate of Montreat Conference Center there. Both my mom and my dad met at Montreat. My dad was working the stables, and my mother was working as a waitress in Assembly Inn. They fell passionately in love and married, and I was born in Richmond, Virginia, where both my dad was a student in seminary at Union, where Kyle went, and then he ended up being the dean of students for many years at the seminary as well. One of the hard things for me in my pastorate in Palo Alto, California, was the fact that I was so far from Dad, and he became very ill. I'm trying to think what year it was. but he had a growth in his neck, and I made arrangements for him to come out and be evaluated at Stanford Medical Center, and he ultimately ended up having surgery there to remove this mass. It was cancerous, and he went through multiple radiation treatments. That ended up kind of scarring his esophagus, so he wasn't able to swallow anything. And he died in 2018. And I, again, was very thankful that by that time I was in Laurinburg and was able to spend some time with him before he passed. He also was Presbyterian minister, and his major occupation in his life was working as the director of the old Rockefeller Foundation. And it was housed in Princeton. That's what we were doing there. And it was an incredible organization. It did its very best to make sure that women and folk who were Hispanic, people who were Black, were given the opportunity and the resource to get their doctorates, and so then helped to kind of help them infiltrate the seminaries all over the country, so that seminaries were more racially diverse. That was a gift for me growing up, because we always had incredible people sitting around our dining table, and Mom and Dad always let me be part of that conversation. I grew up in Nassau Presbyterian Church in Princeton, New Jersey. It was very formative to my early faith. The next picture you see are our new children. The first one is Cece, and the other is named Rico. They are brother and sister. Cece has been blind from birth. I kind of call her our wonder dog, and she's great at memorizing wherever we live, and she's working on the apartment right now. They truly are brothers and sisters in the sense that they will go after each other and also love each other. So we're glad to have them with us. They think that we have brought them to some kind of snowy hell, and they've learned now to try and use the restroom outside when it's cold. The next picture, the first one there is a picture of me. It's my old headshot when I worked as an actor and a nightclub singer in New York City in the late 1970s. It was an interesting time. Late 70s were an interesting time in New York City. I was hired from New York to go and be part of a rep company in Vienna, Austria, at the English theater there, and spent about a year and a half there. When my contract came up, I decided I wanted to go back and finish my bachelor's. And I had a friend who worked for the Atomic Energy Commission in Vienna, and he graciously offered me his apartment in Del Mar, California. They had extended his contract, and so I moved to Del Mar. I worked in the evenings as a bellman at the resort hotel in Rancho Santa Fe, California, and then I went to community college during the day. The other picture next to it is a picture of my dearest friend in all the world. I first met David when we were in second grade together in Princeton, and we have been lifelong friends. Our lives have intertwined in all of those special moments in a life. He was part of my wedding. He's godfather to my daughter. He was part of my father's memorial service. And David is probably one of the funniest, kindest people I know. He struggled growing up because his parents were divorced and his mom didn't have very much money. And so he really spent the brunt of his growing up years in our home, and he would go on vacation with us, all of that. He ended up he worked for Doubleday right after college, and he was Jackie O's assistant, Jackie Kennedy. And then he went on to become the publicist for the New York Ballet, where he met his wife, Kira Nichols, who was the prima ballerina there. And they married. And then David became head of the Philadelphia Ballet, the director there. And now they've moved to Indiana, where Kira has a position teaching ballet at, is it Bloomington? Is that where the university is?
Of Indiana?
Of Indiana.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's where they are. And so one of the gifts and graces about coming here is this will be the first time in many, many years where we've been in close proximity.
4 hours, maybe.
Yeah,
I think.
about 4 and a half.
4.5.
Yeah, so
Not
I'm,
more than 5, but maybe not 4.
yeah. So anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited about that. David was also one of my references here, and I believe Kathy Anderson was the one who spoke to him, and I was amazed that you all still called me. I was a little worried what he might say, but again, just a great and gracious guy. The next couple of pictures are places where I've served. The first one is a picture of Warren United Methodist Church, where I spent a year, my third year in seminary, on an urban ministry fellowship that was sponsored by the Fund for Theological Education. And it was a great place, an amazing place, and I learned so much there. They had land that was right next to it, and they built an apartment building, a huge complex for women with children who didn't have spouses or were divorced. And in the lower level of the center, there was a full-time daycare program. And it really ran 24/7 because the only requirement for people who were living there, women who were living there, was that they would actively pursue education to try and get an associate degree. And so I saw many lives changed by that program, and still actually in touch with many of the people I met when I was there. They also ran this incredible mission project, did it with 13 other churches in Denver. It was called the Coupon Program. One of the coolest things I've ever seen. When coupons used to come in the newspaper, they would have older members of the congregation cut out those coupons, and they had another group who would come in and fold them all. And then we had something worked out with a grocery store called King Super, where you would go in, volunteers would go in, we had a locker in the back of the store, and they would affix those coupons to the products. Okay. And then what would happen was, and it was a neighborhood where there was a lot of need, people could take the product and use the coupon for a discount on the product, or if they chose, they could donate the face value of the coupon to the program. And so every month we distributed a sizable grant to various nonprofits in the Capitol Hill area of Denver. Wow. This was in 1989-90, and by the time I left, we were giving out close to $25,000, $30,000 a year. Wow. Out of that, so it was great. The other really cool thing about it was that we worked it out with the court system, that if you were having to do public service, you could come in and affix these things in the store because the store was open 24 hours a day. Wow. And so people who had jobs and had to do service could come in and do that in the store. So it was a really wonderful time. I learned an incredible amount. And that fellowship allowed me to come back to seminary for my final year, and it paid a stipend for me to continue to do urban work in San Francisco. The next picture, the big white picture, is Covenant Presbyterian Church in inner city New Orleans. It was right on the corner of Napoleon and St. Charles Avenue. This was a huge facility when I came. It would seat probably 800, 850 people. And when I took the call, there were only 40 people, I think, in the congregation. So one of the things I had to do there was to help them through the process of moving to a smaller facility. The other thing we did there that was incredibly meaningful to me was there was a public school that was right behind the church. And I don't know how many of you know kind of the politics of New Orleans proper, but when integration happened, everybody pulled their kids out of public school and sent them to parochial schools. And then city government made it so that took away the tax base to support the public school system. So this building was literally falling in. All of the windows were nailed shut. They had plexiglass, faded plexiglass in the windows. The kids ate their meals down in the basement where the boiler was. So it was regularly 95 to 105 degrees when they were down there. Classrooms had sewerage coming through the ceiling. And most of the kids who were there came out of the projects. It was 99.9% black. And so what we did was we organized a program to bring youth groups and college groups in from all over the country, and we housed them at Covenant. And they did repair to the school. They would raise funds in their local communities so that they could purchase supplies, and we worked it out with the suppliers in New Orleans to give us a huge discount on that. And we radically changed that school. The other thing that happened was I had a woman in the congregation who was an English teacher, and we started an afternoon poetry class for the students. And again, one of the coolest things that happened was one of these kids out of the projects, she won the state award for poetry the year after the program started. It was a hard place to be in the sense that racial tension was palatable. The poverty was just unbelievable. And the amazing thing to me, that school went to 8th grade, and then you went to high school. And the second year I was there, they graduated 63 kids. And we did that in our sanctuary because it was air conditioned,
Yeah.
right? 63 kids, and by the fall, 11 of those kids were dead, had been killed, shot. One was killed by a parent. And you would think with those kinds of numbers, you're looking at over 10%, right, of your graduating class, that somehow that would be at least local news, if not national news, and happen year after year after year. One of the sad things to me about Katrina, I was gone. I just left, actually, from there. When Katrina hit, it also had an impact on on public schools. And so many of them became charter schools after people came back. A lot of people who lived in the projects were completely displaced. They didn't do any repair to those facilities, so they ended up in Baton Rouge or in Houston. So I'm saddened by that city is still in need of great healing and compassion. The next picture there, this beautiful picture, is the inside of Warren Wilson College Chapel. And when I left New Orleans, I came to be both college chaplain there and chaplain to the faculty and to the staff, and had the opportunity to also teach as an adjunct. My assignment teaching at the college was teaching New Testament, and the amazing thing to me was I was shocked that the kids who were in my classrooms, they really didn't even know what the Bible was. They had not been raised in that culture. And so while that was an incredible challenge, the great thing for me was that they asked questions that were totally off my screen, you get questions from people who've been acculturated in the life of the church. You kind of know what those questions would be, but it was great. I mean, I grew, I think, as much as I hope they did in that process. And Warren Wilson has a really cool philosophy, and that is kind of a three-tiered program. There is study, there is service, public service, and there is work. So anyone who goes there, no matter whether you have $1 million or you have nothing, everyone has to work. Very often you have people who are on work study, that kind of thing. Everyone had to work, and everybody had to participate in public service. One of the things I helped implement there was, people were doing service, I think how to say this, we're doing service to kind of check off the box, right, of the requirement. And what I helped implement was a reflective part of that, so that when you've gone out and done service, then you have a deeper conversation of why was it? Why is it systematically? Why is it that you had to go and do that? What's causing that issue to happen in the local community? And so I was very happy with that, and I think it had an impact on the kids who came through the program. I had a chapel crew, it was great, and they cleaned and they helped get the bulletin ready on Sundays. The faculty at the time, I would say probably 80% of the faculty were Buddhists. And so being chaplain to the faculty, people were incredibly gracious and allowed me to come into their lives. And even though I was not from their tradition, many of them saw me as their pastor. So it was great.
That is a warm feeling, isn't it? When
It is. Oh,
you can bring all that together.
Yeah.
And be a part of that.
It is. We had the guy who ran the physical plant was a Mormon, and great guy, and his daughter was getting married. Her fiance was in the military, and he got this, I can't remember, it was something like a 36-hour leave. And I was down in my house and knock at the door, and he asked me, he said, "Look, he's here, can you marry them?" And so I got up, put my pants on, and went out and married them. And when I left, it's funny, when I left that position, we had a kind of faculty staff gathering, and he thanked me for being his pastor, even though we weren't in the same tradition. I'd come, he had some medical stuff, and I'd visited him in the hospital, and so that again, that meant a lot to me, being there. The next picture is a picture of First Pres Palo Alto. This sits really kind of very close to the Stanford campus. It was a congregation made up of social activists, very progressive community. And I often think of myself being in the kind of progressive camp, but I mean, a lot of them were way out ahead of me. They were the first church to become a More Light Presbyterian church, if you know what that is, in support of the LGBTQ community. It did incredible social service work. It also was very active politically, and so would very often write petitions and be present at political rallies. And this was in San Jose Presbytery.
Okay.
And I really had to build the staff when I came in. And we had a woman who was black, who was associate, which was great. I have to say it was great. We had another person who was Korean on staff. Our sexton was Mexican. and we had this very diverse group that worked so well together. We also had a huge facility, and on the property we had an old Tudor house that was there that we rented to nonprofits at an incredibly reduced rate, because again, you can imagine in Palo Alto, the most expensive place on the planet, it was hard for nonprofits to find a space. So we became home to CARA, which was the grief counseling center for the peninsula there. And were great support to us as a faith community, and I think we were a great support to them. One of the amazing things about Palo Alto, and it's not talked about very often, there's a stretch of train track that runs right kind of through the middle of town. And it is the most deadly stretch of track in the country.
It goes through the middle of town.
Well, it's because people commit suicide by the train. Majority of those were high school students, and that was simply because of the academic pressure that was there in Palo Alto. Everybody was expected to go to an Ivy League school or go to Stanford, and so kids would just walk out in front of the train. The other part of it was a place where people were mortgaged to the gills, and also might be in the middle of startup or whatever. The startup would fail, and then they too would commit suicide. So CARA, the Grief Counseling Center, had a very specific program that worked with the train engineers who were, who would hit these people and be traumatized, right, by that.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, it was horrible, absolutely horrible. But again, was not talked about as much publicly. The other thing about Palo Alto, and we made a gallant try to do this, many people would come from the valley, to come and work because they couldn't afford to live anywhere close by. And so many of them would sleep in their cars. And so we were trying to open up our parking lot to them to do that. And we got just incredible flack from the neighbors and from the city. So we did it sporadically, but we were not able to develop that program full bore. And then last is a picture of Laurinburg Presbyterian Church in Laurinburg. It's the church that I came out of as a candidate for ministry years ago. It's in the town where I went to college. And I want to say this right now, that you'll have to give me some grace if I ever slip and call this place St. Andrew's, because that was the name of the college that I went to.
We have folks that do that.
Do they? Okay.
We give them grace. It's okay.
Good. So I'm
We'll
working
work
hard.
on it with you, though.
I am working hard at it.
Yeah,
to say
totally
St.
understand. We have folks that do that, and it just kind of comes out that way. But the heart is in the right spot, so
Okay.
we're in good shape.
Good. But it, Doe and I went to church there. Our son was baptized there. I became a candidate out of that church. But when we came back, and they struggled trying to find somebody who would come. And so they finally decided they would look for an alum, see if they might consider it. I'd been in Palo Alto for a little over 15 years. And so we decided to do that. And what I came to find was the folk who were from the college no longer participated. The college had radically changed as well. Poverty, because all of the industry had left, was just through the roof. Food insecurity, racial tension. We live kind of in the center of town, and almost consistently every night we would hear, gunshots by our house. And the church, because it had lost, I think, so many of the academia influence that they had kind of reverted back to its old ways. And so I was doing my best to try to challenge them to kind of move into this century. And that was hard. It was a difficult task. So I finally decided that I would look for another call. And that was a hard decision to make. It really was. And then COVID, all of that happened. And so leave taking from there for me was very different than any place I had ever left before. And it was interesting, I did have some folk upset with me, but these were folk who I had known previously. And they were hoping that I would be the one to bury them, right? Or be part of their memorial. So that was hard. But I learned a great deal. And again, I helped them to kind of rebuild a staff. So it was a learning experience. And we lived in a great big old house. Here's the amazing thing, Kathy. When I was working for the college after I graduated, we lived in this little bungalow that was right across the street from the house that we ended up buying.
Right.
So, you know, the moving truck took us away from there to San Francisco, and suddenly the moving van comes from San Francisco and brings us right back to the same street. They just opened a different side of the truck, you know, to load.
And there was that box you lost so many years ago, arrived back in, yeah.
Right, it found its way home. So anyway, those are the pictures. And Kathy, anything you want to ask me, or are there questions that people might have who are on? I'll do my best to try and answer.
Yeah, that's quite a history. Just really, really beautiful history of things that you're passionate about. You can tell with them going from spot to spot, and I hope that you'll be able to fulfill some of those passions here at St. Andrew and within our community also.
Yeah, thank you.
I did have one comment on here, and that was from Laura Castins, and she said it's closer to 6 or 6.5, so don't get too excited about doing it with only one stop, okay?
Okay, good.
So,
yeah.
and I bet Laura's made that trip over there to Indiana to know that. So thanks, Laura. I wanted to share with that. But I'm going to give you a chance to take a drink of that water, and I'm going to do a St. Andrew's announcement, PSA. I have the privilege of sitting here with Rob and Doe and seeing them, but you know, with the COVID, we're not able to. So I'm going to give a plug for our directory pictures here, and ask you if you have a family picture that hasn't gotten into the directory that's updated picture, please send that to Jeff, and he will get that in. Jim Halverson was here for a couple Sundays and got quite a few, but I know that a lot of them, I looked through it the other day, and a lot of them are still in need of some updates. So if you have that family picture that was taken when you were able to get together for the last time and want to send that, it's a little more updated, please send that to office at St. Andrew, see, here I go.
There you go.
To Jeff, and he will get that in the directory. And is that good, Jeff, or do you want me to say more? I got a thumbs up. I must be doing something right tonight. Okay.
Well, and I would say, Kathy, it also would be an incredible help to me.
Yes.
To being able to put faces to names.
We spoke with someone from Presbytery at our last session meeting, and the gentleman said, I hope he's an interim at Iowa City Presbyterian Church, and he said, I hope that there'll come a point where I'll meet my congregation. And I thought the same for you. I hope there's a point where we can actually get some people in here to meet you safely, you know.
And it's a double meet, because when I am able to meet people, it's with a mask.
Right, and
so
we just want it to be safe for all of us, for you, for Doe, for our members, for our staff. And it's, you know, my always hope is that it will be spring, but it may be a little later than that. But we're going to get there. I really believe we're going to get there with some kind of outdoor gathering when the weather's nice at least, or something like that.
Good.
So I'm gonna shoot some questions over at you. Do you have enough water there?
Yeah,
You're all
I'm
set?
good.
Okay.
I'm good.
I'm gonna ask you, what are some of the favorite things you and Doe like to do on a personal level? I've heard a lot about your ministry, which is wonderful, but how about the two of you? Tell us a little bit about that, would you?
When we could.
When you can, yes.
Yeah, I mean, we like to travel. We love the mountains, and so that's a kind of neck of the woods that we enjoy. We like to hang out together, believe it or not. And I thought maybe with COVID, being an extrovert, I would absolutely make Doe go crazy. But we've kind of negotiated that, now, and we enjoy being together, which is a great thing. That is a gift and grace to me. Doe has always been an incredible support to my ministry. And I'm always very careful, and I should say this publicly, I don't speak for Doe, and what she wants to do and get involved in, that is her decision. And so she's always, wherever she's been incredibly gracious and fun. You'll find that she's also pretty funny, too.
Okay.
So, yeah, she has a good sense of humor. And Doe, again, being an introvert, she has a lot of stuff that she likes to do that doesn't include me. She's a sewer and does liturgical art and all of that. She'll ask my opinion sometimes, but she's very, very focused in on that stuff as well.
So the next place you live, other than our condos up the road, will have a sewing room for, is that what you're saying? So that be a good idea, Doe?
It absolutely will.
Good. Yeah, wonderful.
In fact, our apartment looks like a sewing room right now with all of her fabric.
Yeah, I have a room like that at home too, and then I have to take it all off the bed so my daughter can sleep once in a while.
Right, right.
One of these days, I'll have my own sewing. It's kind of my dream is to have a sewing room, but it seems my children come and go too much yet.
Right.
So it'll get there. I'm not too worried about it.
Kathy, the other thing that I should say, though, is one of my passions outside of ministry is I love to write, and so write a lot of poetry. But what I'm kind of known for is writing hymns, writing fresh words to old tunes, and so I have my hymns are used all over the country, which is really cool.
Yes, we have to get
And
them.
Doe makes liturgical stoles, and so her work is all over the country, actually all over the globe now. So it's kind of neat. We serve the church in a little more creative way, which I like.
Nice. We look forward to seeing some of those stoles too, Doe. As a person who also enjoys sewing, as I said, I have never tackled one. When we were in high school, when I was in high school, I shouldn't say we, when I was in high school, one of my closest friends' father was a Presbyterian minister, and we cross-stitched the communion symbols on the bottom of a stole for him.
That's great.
And it would, we sat up at night, and when it snowed like this, like crazy, and sit in the back bedroom and cross-stitch. So
That's wonderful.
that's really great. So I heard a rumor about you.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that you like trains.
Yes.
Tell me about is it little choo-choos that go around the Christmas tree?
No.
Is it big choo-choos that go across country?
I probably have the most frequent rider miles on Amtrak of any person in the nation. I have flown all over the world, and I had 2 back-to-back horrid plane experiences, and I have not flown since. In fact, if the truth be known, Doe and I have never flown together ever. And now she would never get on a plane with me because she would sure it'd just go straight into the ground when I got on. So one of the kind of cool things about that, I find riding the train highly meditative. And I usually ride in a room, in one of the roomettes. I pretty much know the staff when I get on the train, or they know me. I will tell just a quick story about being in Washington. Coming out, I was there when everything was in lockdown and the troops were there. They boarded up the front of my hotel. And I had to go through 5 checkpoints in about less than a mile to get back to Union Station to get on to go to Chicago. And so there's a Red Cap who's there that I've known for years. And he told me to call him, when I was coming in. So he picked me up and then drove me through, I don't know where we were, through parking garages and tunnels and everything else, and got me to my hotel. So he picked me up. I had to go through these checkpoints, and then he picked me up about, I guess, 4 or 5 blocks from the train station when I left. But that was an amazing thing to see our capital just militarized Never seen anything like that before. So anyway, I'm a train lover.
Train them.
Love it.
Have you been from one coast to the other?
Many a time.
Yeah?
Many a time. Came out a number of times when my dad was sick. Doe and I rode the train when out and back to see her family when we were in college. I went out in August, I think it was, to see Callie and our grandchild. So, and fairly safe. They're pretty good about COVID, and you're in a room. You don't have any contact with anybody
Oh, yeah.
the whole trip, so it actually is pretty cool.
Yeah. We have a couple comments here. One is from the Schmidt-Rendell family, Amy. She says, you're to plan a trip to the Boone for a train ride in the Hawkeye Express.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
I personally haven't been up there, and it's kind of been on Dave's and my bucket list for a while. But the Hawkeye Express takes you, from IHOP to the Hawkeye game, which is also a great train ride. That's an
okay.
important one to know how to get to and ride. But the one up in Boone County, they say, is very beautiful,
Okay.
especially in the fall.
Okay.
And that type of thing. The second one is, folks are interested in, do you have a favorite food?
Wow. So I come out of a Cajun background,
Okay.
and my grandfather, great-grandfather changed the name from Mouton to Martin to kind of Americanize it. And so I love Cajun food, love it. Crawfish etouffee, all of that stuff. I'm also a big Mexican fan, good Mexican food. And I've found, I think I mentioned this to you, I found, is it Stella's down
Yeah.
on Melrose?
Yes.
That in fact tonight, all the Cajun food's half price, and it's great. I mean, I really loved it.
Yeah,
So-
we're done at 7.
Okay, I might have to make a run. No.
We're done at 7, so yeah.
But yeah, so Mexican,
Mexican,
and
Cajun.
Cajun.
I personally didn't know Stella's had Cajun food. And as you said that, I thought to myself, okay, congregation, you're going to have to come up with a Cajun restaurant because I haven't got a clue.
The other thing to know about me is I no longer eat red meat. I'm not which is, again, big thing I know in Iowa. I eat chicken and fish, but haven't done that for a number of years.
Do you eat hog?
Occasionally, that's the only thing I kind of cheat on
Yeah.
every now and then, but I don't eat red meat.
We have lots of hogs in Iowa. We have our fair share, I've been told.
I'm a big milk drinker too, so,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
it's
we've
good-
got our dairy
place
cows
to be.
too. We
know.
talked to a couple of our families about their dairy farm and stuff. So, Jeff is giving us the 10-minute mark here,
Okay.
and even probably close to that. But I'm just wondering, is there any other questions? I'm not seeing anything on the chat here. Just we just have a whole list of folks that have just said welcome and hello.
That's sweet.
And just want to wish you well. Woot woot, survived the first week in Iowa and didn't freeze. Welcoming to lots of welcomes to you, Doe, also on here. Welcome, Doe. We're looking forward to get to know you. I hope Jordan got his volume fixed. Gordon Hines was having some problems with his volume. But just so many. I mean, I don't want to leave anyone out, but I'm just going to say there are so many welcomes from so many families to the two of you.
And I've been,
to be here.
that's the thing that almost has been overwhelming in a good way. And the fact is how people I've met, people who have called, so gracious and so welcoming. And again, I want to personally say a huge thank you for that for us. It was not an easy move, and you all have made us feel incredibly welcomed. I do want to mention, Kathy, just so
Please.
people know, kind of know my plan. Again, because of COVID, I'm going to kind of systematically move through the directory, doing my best to call folk. And if you get a call from me and you're not there, I'll leave you a message, and hopefully you'll be able to contact me when you have the chance to do that. But I want to be sure that kind of right out of the chute, I have an opportunity to talk with as many of the congregation as I can.
You kind of answered my last question on my little cheat sheet here, Rob. Come on now, I'm running out of questions for you. It said, my statement was to ask you how you were looking forward to meeting everyone, in what way with COVID, and I think you've just kind of answered that with phone calls. I also believe that Jeff has put up there your email address several times. It's rmartin@St. Andrew with our little, I say it, but I'll say it wrong, so it's like everyone else is at the end. It's just R. Martin if you're looking to send him an email, a welcome, a personal note of hello.
Thank you. And some people, Kathy, may have my Yahoo mail, and I would encourage people to use the church mail now.
Use the church one, and
and people also are welcome, if it's easier for them. It's actually, if you need to catch me pretty quickly, always feel free to text my cell, my cell phone.
Text your cell, and we'll get that out. Jeff will get that number out also.
Okay.
He's giving me the thumbs up, so I'm not saying things I'm not supposed to here.
Okay. And the other thing to note, just so everyone knows, we've worked it out among the staff about the day off, and so I'll be off on Fridays, just so everybody knows that.
So Rob won't be in the office on Friday. Kyle's not in the office on Monday.
Correct.
And then the rest of the staff also have some days, and I just can't recite them off the top of my head, but I know Kyle is Monday and you're Friday, and then other staff are in between there.
Heather and I are usually here on Monday.
Monday, and stuff. So I believe Heather is Friday also, but
Okay.
a lot of them it's not something that I keep in my mind and mind for them. But again, from myself, from the staff, from the congregation, from our community, welcome to Iowa. We sure are looking forward to sharing our ministry and your ministries with you and what we do around here. We have some great things that happen. We just got to wait and get back in some of the bigger ones, but there's some of the others are still going on. We're going to start with our Lenten prayer series coming up here, and that's something that will continue, and COVID's not going to stop that. It's not even going to get in the way of it.
And another reason to update your directory stuff,
right?
So that you can
people
can be part of that.
And I talked about picture, but also if you have a new email or phone number that you want in there, or home address, also, if you want any of that information updated, then please send that too.
Okay.
I'm just going to read here real quick. Somebody wants to know, do you have anything that you forgot or discovered you need here in Iowa that we can help with?
So here's the good news. I know everything is here.
Okay.
I just don't know where it is.
Okay, well,
So the one thing we have not found yet is our silverware. So people have lent us a few things, so that's been great. I will be the first to let the community know if there's something, that we need. Be glad to do that.
We've had some others that are looking forward to reading some of your poetry sometime, and they're so glad you're here. Again, we have a set of young ones that want to know if you've challenged a snowman yet. Snowman? 3 little round.
Oh.
Did Doe said they've played in the snow. She did not shy away from it. She got in there and she's played in the snow. Little snow angel, you said?
My sister built a snowman angel, she also did this angel.
Oh, they did the snow angel in the grass, and they also built a little snow person.
Well, and
angel.
I'm waiting for Doe to take one of the moving boxes and go down the hill as well.
Yeah.
I think
You call me. I think we can get some kids to do that with you.
Okay. And I went snowshoeing.
Yeah, we've got some families that snowshoe, and I'm sure now that you've said you enjoy snowshoeing, you're going to get a call. Yeah, we've got a couple families that snowshoe that I'm aware of. A family told us they're having tofu tonight for dinner, so stop on by. The question of what's one of your favorite books to read that's not the Bible?
Oh, I'm a huge Richard Rohr fan. I don't know if you know him.
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, he's a kind of radical Franciscan monk and writes just incredible stuff. So he's one of my champions. I also Walter Rauschenbusch is in the theological realm, but the constructor of the social gospel, and he's also one of my idols and favorites.
Mary Lou and Dave say yay on the milk drinkers. They had dairy cows for many years.
Good.
And again, there are just so many wonderful welcomes, and I don't know, Jeff, are those names being recorded or? Yeah, so you can read, but so many people have tuned in. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we're gonna close up here because we're at our time that we agreed to. I know there's some recording going on here after we're done. So I want to say thanks to everyone who sent us notes and sent warm wishes of welcome to both Rob and Doe.
Thank you.
And Rob, would you be willing to close us in prayer?
I'd be glad to. Please join with me in prayer. Gracious God, on this cold evening, we give you thanks for the warmth, for the hospitality of this community of faith. Doe and I especially give thanks to you and to the Spirit for the open-armed welcome that we have received in this past week. As we move into this church's future, even in the midst of COVID-19, we would ask that your spirit of guidance would guide our work and both our witness. Help us to be welcoming to the larger community around us. Help us to offer a message of grace and welcome and acceptance to those who are looking for a church home. And most importantly, we would ask this night that you would help us to reach out to those who may not be looking for a church home, who may not know what a church community can do and be, and may not know how a church community can change their very lives. And so now, as we depart from this place, as we sit in our various homes, we would ask that your Holy Spirit would continue to bless us all. For we ask all this as fully and as faithfully as we can in this moment. Amen.
Thank you. One other great thank you is to Jeff, who came out tonight to put this together.
Yes.
You know, we wouldn't have a lot of our online stuff if it wasn't for Jeff's dedication. So.
And Kathy, thank you.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was glad to be here. Wes Habley will be here on Sunday talking again for folks that couldn't join us tonight. And so with that, I think we'll say good night. Jeff?
Good night.